like to welcome everybody to another episode of the Major Music Lounge podcast. It's your host, D Dot, coming at you with another episode. And today we're actually going to talk to Laury Verdoux. She is a music PR manager straight out of France and going to talk to us about her role as a PR manager, some of the artists that she worked with, how she got into being a PR manager, and more. If this is your first time checking out the Major Music Lounge podcast, we like to talk to other music creators, or in this case, industry professionals, about some of the projects that they're working on. Also, if they're a content creator, what if you also have experience in the film and television space as far as getting placements and more. And if you're interested, if you're a music creator, and you're interested in getting on a podcast, please reach out to me on one of my socials. And you can find me on Instagram at d._major music. Same thing if you use Threads or TikTok. And you can follow me on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at d.mme. If you like this episode, please go ahead, hit the subscribe button. I usually post new episodes weekly, as well as on all the podcast streaming platforms you can find me. So let's go ahead and get into the interview with Laury. Like to welcome y'all back to the Major Music Lounge podcast. We're joined by PR manager Laury Verdoux, based out of France. How are you doing today?
Doing
Or
great.
tonight? I suppose it's
Yeah,
night. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's 10 p.m. for me. Doing great,
Wow.
and
Well, first and foremost, thank you for staying up late with us. And
no problem.
uh, so how's everything going down there? Like, what's the music scene like? And well, I guess the biggest question is start off with like, how did you get into the role of being a music manager?
Okay, that's a long story, so I will try to make it short. Basically, I've always been interested in the music industry, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So when I went to university, I wanted to be a journalist, and then I was like, oh, maybe I want to be a music manager. And then I realized that I absolutely loved going to concerts, so I thought it would be great to work behind the scenes. And then I did a master's degree to work in booking, like music booking. And it was great, but I was interested in so many different things. And then I got an interest in production as well. I knew that this one would just be a hobby. I wouldn't really work in production because I don't feel like I have the skills for that, but it was just fun. And this actually led me to move to Korea to do a music production course. And there I also did an internship with a label. And they asked me to do some PR things, but I didn't know it was PR. So I started working as a publicist without even knowing that I was working as a publicist. And I just loved it. So basically, what I do is that I help artists with everything related to promoting their music. So with press coverage, radio airplay, and playlist placements. And it's just like great being a part of an artist's journey because I'm working mainly with like independent rising artists. So they need a lot of guidance, and I also get to help them in different things like marketing, some booking as well. Um, so yeah, we've been doing a bunch of things. After I graduated, I did some booking, some marketing for a label, and now I started my own PR agency officially last year.
That's Moonlight PR.
Moonlight PR, yes.
Okay, okay. Yeah, and that's that's quite the journey, going to school for production and then, finding yourself as a music manager. Now you also, with that being said, I noticed because I checked out the Moonlight agency page and I saw you work with a lot of artists all across the world, in fact. And
Yes,
yeah,
the funny thing is, I'm in France, but I don't work with many French artists. Like, I don't know why, but I feel more confident running a press campaign like outside of France.
yeah, yeah. And like when you're looking for those artists, or better yet, well, I guess you could ask that. Is there anything that you look for specifically in the artist that you work with?
Not necessarily. I'm open to most genres. I'm just not really familiar with like punk music, hardcore. So I wouldn't work with these genres just because I don't have the right contacts. Um, so I've been working with both small artists and like big labels like Warner Music or Sony Music. So I'm not really picky. It's more like whether or not I like the music. And there are just like a few important things when it comes to PR, like having a, a, a good song. But I mean, that's subjective because I can like a song and someone is not gonna like that song. But like the production needs to be well done, the mixing needs to be good, uh, singing needs to be on point, obviously. Um, and one thing that is mandatory is that if an artist wants to work with me, that artist needs to have good press shots because I had artists sending me selfies to use that and send it to journalists. And I got a lot of like upset journalists because I was sending them something that wasn't up to their standard. Like the music was okay, like it was great, but just because of their image wasn't good enough, then they couldn't support that. So I've become a bit stricter on things like that, but it's more whether or not I like the music.
Yeah, and that last part, about the photos that get sent, that's a I think underrated issue when it comes to just being a creator because there was one time, I can't remember this creator's name, but he was saying that every couple of months he goes out and does a photo shoot and he updates his like portfolio or his press kit with his new photos. And I think that's something that everybody should do, artists, producers, just to stay, fresh in terms of, like you were mentioning with the press kits. And you never know what type of like I think presentation, for example, is big when it comes to being a creator.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, it works for everyone in the creative industry. And I know because sometimes I have artists telling me I don't have budget for a photographer. And I always tell them that's okay. You can have a friend taking pictures of you. That's fine as long as it looks good and it's not you just taking a picture in the mirror. Or like I've also had some artists just sending me like naked pictures or like them smoking cigarettes. And no, the publications are not gonna feature that, but they still try. I understand it's a concept, but um yeah, I just wish that sometimes artists were more aware that you need to have a good image and, as you said, update your pictures frequently because it works for press, but it's also good for social content.
Yeah.
Because you need to also be on social media if you're an artist and you want to get more fans, grow a community around yourself. So you're always going to use the pictures anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's another thing as well. Like I meet a lot of creators, especially that, want to come on a podcast. And in fact, and I like to go to their like Instagram, go to their YouTube. I like to check out if they have like a link tree. And I'm just kind of doing research on, this artist. But then I go to some artist page or some producer's pages and they don't have anything on the page. And I'm
Yeah.
just kind of like, how are you thriving in 2024 and you don't have a social presence as a PR manager? How important do you think it is to, I'm not saying like these creators have to post every aspect of their day, what they're eating, where they're going, things like that. but maybe posting things around their creative process or around releases that they might have. How important do you think that is as a music manager?
Super important. Um, Maybe not as important as the music itself, but if you don't have a social presence, it's going to be harder to promote your music and engage with fans. Um, so I should only focus on the PR and promotion side, but because there are people working and helping artists with the social media side. But I've done that when I worked for a label, so I can also help artists with that, helping them with their content and everything. Um, so there's always a time before starting the campaign where I talk with the artist and I'm like, okay, so what content do you have? Uh, what are you gonna post around the release? And one thing that it's hard to understand for certain artists as well, but when you get like radio airplay or some press coverage, it's super important to post that, just even just a story and like thank the journalist or the radio host. And it's content, so always great for the algorithm. And your fans can see that, okay, there are things going on out there, and like other industry professionals can see that. Uh, but some artists, they're not really into that. They want to do their own thing, and they
Yeah.
don't really care about social content, which I can understand. But then I wouldn't necessarily work with these people because you see it like on TikTok and Instagram, there are a lot of songs blowing up,
Yeah.
and there's reason.
Yeah, it's tough because I think that it doesn't necessarily, like you say, have to be social content. It could even be like just some type of YouTube content. Because I feel like as a creator in this 2024, you have to have some sort of content to keep your audience engaged. And I've even dealt some times where like some creators may come on the show and they don't talk about their interview. It's kind of like you said about reposting if they get
Yeah,
into
that's
a pub.
common sense for me, but not for everyone.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling because every show that I've been on outside of mine, um, I've reposted to my page on my stories. And then even if I had articles that have been written over the years, they're still in my link tree even right now to this day. So, it's one of those things where you never know who might be looking at your page and what kind of opportunities that you can get from it. Have you ever had a situation where, like, kind of like you said, maybe there was an artist who had potential, but they still had they still had some space to grow as an artist before, you started working together. Maybe they didn't have releases out. Maybe they didn't have that type of online presence. Have you ever met many artists like that?
Not many, but some of them. And so I'm always honest because I'm not gonna work with an artist if I know that the campaign has no potential. I'm gonna be wasting time, the artist is gonna waste money, and that's absolutely not the idea. So I'm also okay to say no to artists and to tell them why. But the door is always open if they want to come back to me in the
Yeah.
future. But now I have the freedom to say that. But I used to work for labels and PR agencies. And when I was working with them, I had no choice. If the artists were paying, then we were doing the campaign, even if the music wasn't really good, but like good in a like well-produced way, or if they didn't have proper press shots, um, I I still had to do it. So I knew that the campaign wouldn't really work. And at the end of the day, it was on me to justify that and tell the artist why. So it wasn't easy. But for example, one of my best friends is also a radio host, and she always complains that, so she has a weekly show. So she's featuring a lot of music, and at least half of the artists that she's playing every week don't share that on their socials or don't say thank you. She's just asking for like a thank you because she makes a lot of posts. Like she has the playlist, and then before the show, she's gonna make some stories and like just it's gonna be on at this time, just join. Or you can just like say thank you to the
Yeah.
the story, but some artists don't even do that. And I'm trying to educate my artists to say thank you. Honestly, 99% of the time I don't have to do that because they it's just normal for them, so they do it. But I'm really shocked that it's because it's like small artists. So how can you behave that way when you're like small? If you were, I don't know, Beyonce, yeah, maybe you don't have time to say thank you to everyone, but they're not. And yeah, I can feel and see that my friend is feeling really bad and annoyed and frustrated, which I can understand, but it's the same thing every single week.
Yeah. And that's tough, from a creator standpoint. Like, they don't really understand how many hours as whether it's a journalist, whether it's a content creator, whoever, a podcaster who, doing these podcasts, taking the time out. In some cases, some people, they may, like myself, I take time to edit the podcast as well before I put it up, and then putting it up on not only YouTube but all the streaming platforms. But it's a lot of time and a lot involved with that, and it means everything to a creator. Just saying thank you, not only showing gratitude but also keeping those lines of communication open because. If you do say thank you or you repost, you building that relationship and other relationships like with the podcast, for example, there's been one person on the show and then someone might see them repost it and they reach out to me and it just kind of continues to grow. So I think it actually works hand in hand, not only for the guests or the person that they're writing the article on, but the person that's, at the publication.
Totally. I'm really glad to hear you say that.
Yeah, yeah. And like tell us all again, like what are the services that Moonlight PR offer to artists?
Mainly press coverage, radio airplay, and playlist placements. But because I was involved in different sides of the music industry, I can help in other areas. And I have more and more artists asking me, oh, can you help me with booking? Or can you be my manager? And I used to say no, but I'm actually considering right now maybe offering more services or just for some artists that I really get along well. So I might not advertise that on the website, but I might just offer it like privately. But mainly, Moonlight PR is about promoting the music in itself. So when there's like a music release, a single, an album. We also help when there's a tour. So to help sell more tickets, invite journalists to attend the gig for some live reviews. And yeah, basically that's what we do at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, and like, going in, you kind of said something a little bit earlier, like about being like the manager for different artists, but like a lot of artists they want managers, but they don't necessarily have a lot at the moment to manage. So at what point do you think it's it's good for artists to finally get a manager?
I would say when they are ready to take things seriously. So there are two artists that I'm considering, and I know I will end up signing a management contract with because they have a lot of music ready. They are ready to perform. Um, because as a manager, some of them get a flat fee or you get a commission based on what the artist earns. So yeah, you need to have a lot of things going on. Otherwise, the manager isn't going to make any money. So yeah, the idea is to have a lot of music ready, or not a lot, but like some music ready, be able to perform, because when you perform, obviously you make money and you can also sell some merch. Um, and I would say when you want to make music full time, because a lot of artists are just happy to have a day job and just make music on the side, which is totally fine. But then you don't need to have a manager because you don't necessarily want to take things to the next level. But yes, if you want to take things to the next level, then you can work with a manager, or try to find a label deal. But usually you go through the manager first, and the manager can help you secure a label deal.
Yeah, that's definitely what I would say. An artist first and foremost want to, if you want to grow, especially locally, and then looking from a national and even going worldwide, you're going to at some point, or when you're getting shows and they start to get to a point where you may not have control in terms of like what bookings are coming in, what bookings you want to accept. You got that one person that can kind of navigate you through all of those times, in addition to just being an artist with studio time, and releases as well. So, I think once you kind of have a need for those, or having someone organize your schedule and kind of direct you in that process, then it might be time for you to get a manager. But if you're just starting out and you haven't released a project at that point, I would say, definitely educate yourself more. And then, you might want to get at somebody like yourself. Now,
Yeah.
I got a chance to check out the Moonlight PR site and some of the articles that you've done. You have a lot of work on there. Do you do a lot of this like all yourself?
Yes, mostly. I have an intern at the moment, but I get a lot of publicists asking me if I'm hiring. And I guess I should soon because we're getting more and more requests from artists, but it's really hard because Moonlight PR is my baby. So it's my brand, and I'm having a hard time bringing someone in, because I want to check everything they do. So I'm starting with an intern first. She's doing great. So maybe soon I will be ready to add more people to the team. But yeah, it's difficult, like handling writing the press releases, reaching out to journalists, reaching out to curators, to radio hosts, handling the social media content. So yeah, I might need more help real soon, but for now, as long as I can handle, I'm gonna handle by myself because I'm sure that things will be done the way I want them to be done.
Yeah, yeah. Now on average, like, being that you have a lot of artists around the globe, how many hours a day do you say you put in?
Are you sure you want to know? Okay, right now, this period is super busy because it's right before the summer. And at least in France, in Europe, the summer period is a bit slow with releases because it's the festival period. So artists are busy with festivals and not really busy with releasing music. So they all want to release music in May and June. So let's say this month is a bit special, but lately I've been working every day, 7 days a week. Um, Probably until like morning, early morning to like midnight if I'm lucky, but
Okay.
I stayed awake longer than that. So yeah, 10 p.m., doing the interview at 10 p.m., it's nothing for me. I would be
Yeah.
working anyway, so we are good.
Yeah, yeah. I totally respect that. I've done interviews with people from like Australia,
Oh,
London, Amsterdam. And I respect, and I've even done it kind of the other way around too, like to where I'm the one doing it at around 8, 9, 10 o'clock, and they're doing it in the morning. So it's just kind of cool, but it's what I find cool and fascinating is just the time difference, and we still find a way to get it done.
I know, right?
Yeah, yeah. Where can our viewers find, you at online as well as Moonlight PR?
So we have a website. It's moonlightprmusic.com. You can find all the links there. There's an Instagram. It's Moonlight PR. Or I have my personal Instagram, which is LR Music, but music written the French way. So Musique. I'm on LinkedIn as well, on Facebook, using my name, Laury Verdoux. Maybe you can add the links in the description.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'll put like the graphic where they could follow you as well. And as a music manager, what's maybe one word of advice that you can give to, artists just about anything maybe that you see around the artists that you work with currently?
Um, Let me think, because there are a lot of things that I could say. But maybe as an artist, take some time to think about where you want to go. That's something I always ask artists I'm working with, like, before working with them, because that's great. They contact me, they're releasing a song or an album, and I'm like, okay, what's the purpose here? I'm happy to promote it, but then what do you want? What's next? Because the strategy will be different if we're just promoting the music to promote the music because it's like a music is a side gig for the artist, or if the artist wants to take things more seriously and they're looking for gigs or a manager, booking agent, then we're going to be more serious and we will reach out to different kinds of publications. So, yeah, just know where you're at right now and where you want to go next. Yeah.
Yeah, have a plan. I mean, you can't get from point A to point B. I always like me as a creator, because I do production and I'm also an artist, but I kind of always map out the project that I'm creating and, the process and getting there. And that's helped me throughout my time, get better and better each time. So I definitely agree with you. You could follow me on Instagram at d._major music and follow the Major Music Lounge page to see interview clips and stay up to date on any new guests that we have on the show. And you can follow them at Major Music Pod on Instagram. I appreciate all the listeners tuned in. Go ahead and hit Laurie with a follow and Moonlight PR, and we definitely appreciate the time Laura gave us this evening. And I hope to stay in touch with you and a lot of the work that you're doing as well. So yeah, let's continue to stay in touch.
Of course. Thank you so much. And thank you so much because you're also interviewing some of my artists. So I really appreciate it.
No problem at all. No problem at all. I want to shout out the Sizzles. In fact, the Sizzles was on the previous episode, and we normally like we do the shows around this amount of time, but I think we went a little bit over, and just we connect on a lot of conversation. And I look forward to having the Sizzles back on, and any artist that you're working with as well.
Thank you so much.
No problem. This concludes another edition of the Major Music Lounge podcast. It's D Dot and Laurie, and we're signing out.
Major Music.